Hello everyone! I decided to neglect all of my responsibilities and film this video instead. Today what I'm going to be talking about is the time I got depressed in Disney. That sounds completely awful, but it actually happened. And the reason why I was depressed was over a book. Setting a little backstory, we were in Disney with some of our family friends and we were having a great time. It was so much fun. We were having a blast. We were having such a good time. And then it happened. I was reading the book If He Had Been With Me by Laura Nolan. I picked up this book at the bookstore a few months before I actually went on my Disney trip. And I really had no idea what this book was about. The reason why I bought it was one of the main characters in the book was named Finn. I love the Hunger Games books. When I saw his name was Finn, I associated it with the Hunger Games, and Finnick's my favorite character in the Hunger Games, so I had to buy it. I really didn't know anything about this book. The only thing I could really gather was it's probably going to be a sad book. I was reading this book and I was loving it. I love the main character. I really connected with the main character. Her name was Autumn and she loved reading and I just really was invested in her story. It was like I was there with her. I was so attached. Whenever we weren't in the actual parks at Disney, I would be reading this book. I absolutely loved it. I'm not going to say any spoilers for this book, but from what you can kind of tell, it doesn't have a happy ending. When we were in Disney, we would get there right away in the morning, stay for a few hours, then we'd go back to our hotel in the Disney resort, and then we would go back a little while later and go through the parks again. I was getting close to the end of this book, and I was reading it. Everyone was taking a nap except for me, my dad, and our family friend, Chris. I was reading this book, and something happened, and I just dropped the book. I had like 20 pages left. I just dropped it. I just put my hands over my face like this and just started sobbing. I was sobbing so hard. It was the hardest I've ever cried before. My family friend, Chris, was looking at me and he's like, "Are you okay?" And my dad was just like, "Oh, it's just about the book." And I didn't talk. I literally sat like this against the chair, sobbing. So I had to walk away. I went into the other room and my dad followed me and he asked me what's wrong and I explained what happened to him. Literally sobbing. I calmed myself down. I still was tearing up. I picked up the book again and I finished it, but I was crying softly to myself the rest of the time. Chris was still there with me and he was kind of joking around with me. He was trying to get me to lighten up, asked what was wrong, and I was trying to fluff it off. I was talking with him, trying to laugh as I was still crying. Tears were still coming down my face. Obviously, I haven't been actually depressed, so I do not know exactly how it feels, and this only lasted a few days. The next few days that we were at Disney, I was so sad. I kept on thinking about it. I cried myself to sleep. I was so affected by this book. That's why I say If He Had Been With Me is my favorite book, but I hate it. I hate this book. I don't anticipate myself ever rereading this book just because it had such a huge impact on me. I know that if I did ever reread this book, it wouldn't have the same effect on me as it did when I first read it. So I will never reread it again. This was the time I was depressed at Disney. I still had such a fun time, don't get me wrong. I wasn't moping the whole time. I remember one time I was getting food at the resort that we were staying at. I was almost in tears again because I kept on thinking about this book. So here's my review / story time about my Disney trip. Thank you all so much for watching. If you want to subscribe to my channel, please feel free to. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And I will talk to you next time. Bye!